Well, I guess we could start now. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Ryan. I'm your Government Affairs Director here at the BIA. Thank you for joining us. I think I've seen most of you on a few of these already, possibly the last one with Chris. Today, we have Chris Lewis from Lewis CPA Group to talk about the PPP, the changes to it. You know, if you don't know, there was a bill passed and signed about a little over a week and a half ago. That changed some of the terms. I think I've kind of got it out there. There's some broad terms with whether the breakdown for what you have to spend on payroll, as well as the terms of the window you have to spend those dollars in. But I think Chris can speak more to that. I know there's a lot of stuff with the original bill and this bill that regulations and rules are made and guidelines are being made as the days go by, just because the fact is it was rolled out so fast. They had to do rulemaking after it was already law. So that's where it sits. Afterwards, I can answer some questions about the broader stuff if you have any questions about phase 2 or COVID stuff, but I'm going to hand this over to Chris and let him go. Chris, it's all you, my friend.
All right, thanks, Ryan. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and just get going on the slideshow here. All right, can everybody see it?
Yep, we're good. I can see it.
Okay, perfect. So, as Ryan said, my name is Chris Lewis. I'm with Lewis Group CPAs. I'm a certified public accountant, have been for, 16, 17 years now. What we're going to talk about today is the PPP loan forgiveness and what changed with it. As Ryan said a couple weeks ago, there are some major changes, which is very beneficial and will help most businesses ensure that they can get most, if not all, of their PPP loan forgiven. So we'll just jump right into some of the changes here. The first one is the 8-week period has been extended to 24 weeks, okay, which is huge. So if you have a loan prior to when this came into effect, you now have the option to use the 8-week window or a 24-week window, which is about 6 months. Okay, there's no election you have to make. You don't have to contact the bank. You just get to decide which one you want to use. Okay, if you happen to, just a second. If you happened to get a loan after this was put in place, then all new loans will have a 24-week covered period, which means you now have 24 weeks to spend your PPP money. Okay. Now, the one caveat here is that the covered period, the 24-week period, cannot extend beyond December 31st, 2020. All right, this is by far the biggest change and will help most businesses. Okay, the next change is that you now have this 24-week period to restore workforce levels and wages to pre-COVID. Okay, so just like I said, this has to be done by December 31st. The previous deadline was June 30th. So you now have until the end of the year to get your workforce, your number of FTEs back up to where it was prior to COVID. And also to, if you had to cut anybody's wages, it gives you a nice long period to restore their wages back to what they previously were. One other big change is the requirement to spend 75% of the loan proceeds on payroll has dropped from 75% down to 60%. So what this means is now you have to use at least 60% of the loan for payroll related expenses. So that's payroll taxes, benefits, etc. And now you've got up to 40% of the loan that you can use for rent, utilities, mortgage interest, etc. The one big issue here, though, is that in the past, if you didn't reach the 75% requirement, it was a phase out of how much was forgivable. Now, if you fall below the 60% figure for payroll, it's an all or nothing thing, so it's a cliff. If you don't get up to 60%, then none of your loan will be forgivable. So you want to make sure in this 24-week period that you're using at least 60% of the loan for payroll. And the reason why I think this is going to be fairly easy for most businesses is because your loan is based on basically 10 weeks of payroll from last year. So they gave you a loan for 10 weeks of payroll, and now we're giving you 24 weeks to use it. Okay, so there are some exceptions now that are providing some flexibility for borrowers to help achieve full forgiveness. Before this came about, they came out, the Treasury came out and said, if you offered a job to a former employee and they turned it down, then as long as you had that in writing, that would not count against you. So they've added two more exceptions as well. So if you cannot find qualified employees, or if you're unable to restore your business operations to pre-COVID levels, so pre-February 15th, 2020, and both of those are due to COVID-related operating restrictions, then that will not count against you in your FTE count when applying for forgiveness, which is huge. So hopefully by the end of the year, this will all be a thing of the past, but at least it gives us some flexibility and some time to get business back to where it was. And the last major change is that new borrowers, so any new loans that have come out since this passed, anything that's not forgiven and turns into a loan, you now have up to 5 years to pay it back. The old loan is up to 2 years to pay it back, but now it's up to 5. If you got a loan previously to this coming out, and not all of it's going to be forgivable, then you can still talk with your bank and work out paying it off over a 5-year period instead of 2-year period, but both bank and the borrower need to agree on that. And the interest rate is still 1%, whether you pay it off in 2 years or in 5 years. Okay, I know I've gone a little quick through this, but those are the major changes to the PPP forgiveness. So now I'm going to open it up to questions.
So Chris, this is Ryan. And I think I'm pretty sure I got what you said about the unable to basically get back to to February 15th numbers. Basically, that exception is for if you can't get to those numbers, not by market factors, but by prohibitions by law, right? So if they can't come back because, for example, we don't, you can't have 6 servers because you only have 3 tables, that would qualify. But if you don't just have business because the market isn't supporting it, that doesn't qualify.
Correct. Yeah. So if you can only have 3 servers instead of you used to have 6, and because of restrictions at restaurants, that would qualify. If you can't find a workforce because people are too afraid to come back to work, or they're using the excuse of I'm making more on unemployment than I would be working, then those would both work too. But if you open up your business fully and the business just doesn't come back to you, then that doesn't count, unfortunately.
What kind of documentation do you need for those two exceptions? Do we know yet, or have they even stated it?
They haven't really stated it yet, but I would try and document as best as you can. The state of Washington has this great layout of what each phase represents and what you can do. And so if you do run into issues by the end of this 24-week period, I would use that as documentation. Say, look, according to the state, we're only in phase 3, which means I can only operate at this level. And so that should help solidify your position as to why you cannot restore business to pre-COVID levels.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate everybody getting on today. And as always, feel free to give me a call with any questions you have. Thanks again, Chris. Chris, this is the second time I call him, and he says, sure, I'll see you. What time do you need me? So that makes it really easy. I really appreciate it, Chris, for all that. I will include Chris's contact information in the roundup I will send out to you guys this afternoon if you need to get a hold of him. As always, feel free to contact me about this or any other stuff. I'm enjoying doing these webinars, so and I like being able to interact with you guys and hear your questions and stuff. So if you have any questions or ideas for a webinar, stuff you want to know more about, I can maybe fill half an hour around, please shoot them my way and I can work on that. Even if I don't have the information, I could probably pull in from someone from state or nationals if it's that big of an issue, or one of our experts in the industry. So just keep that in mind and have a wonderful day, everyone. Be safe.
Great. Thanks again, you guys.
Thank you.